Today, I'm going to tell you an interesting story about the life of Saint Charles Lwanga. Saint Charles is also known as the patron saint of African youth, converts, and torture victims. He was born around the year 1860 in the Kingdom of Uganda, and he grew up in a traditional African household. As he matured, he entered into royal service, becoming a servant of King Mwanga II, the young leader of Uganda, who was known to be an unstable ruler. During this time, Uganda was experiencing religious change. Many Christian missionaries, such as Catholics and Anglicans, began preaching the gospel in Uganda. Their message of love, equality, and eternal life stirred the hearts of many young Africans, including Charles. He watched as some of his fellow servants converted to Christianity and began to live differently. They prayed, forgave easily, and refused to take part in the immoral acts that were common in the palace. Charles, inspired by their faith, eventually converted to Catholicism and was baptized. His soul was ignited with a new purpose, to serve not just his king, but his heavenly king, Jesus Christ. One day, King Mwanga was angered by the growing number of missionaries in Uganda and ordered the massacre of the Anglican missionaries. The leader of his male servants, named Joseph Mukasa, who was just baptized as Catholic, rebuked him for his acts of cruelty. The king then had him beheaded not only for rebuking him, but also because he had recently converted to Christianity. Then Saint Charles assumed his position and was now the leader of the male servants. At this time, the king began to notice the increasing number of Christian converts within his palace, and he got angry. The story was that King Mwanga had sexual interest towards his male servants, and every time he demands for pleasure, his male servants would refuse him because it was a mortal sin against their Christian belief. In May 1886, the king got very furious and ordered to arrest all Christian converts in his palace and have them executed. When Charles realized his death was near, he helped some of the other servants escape. One of his most courageous acts was he baptized his fellow male servants who had not yet been baptized but wished to become Christians. The next morning they were all singled out by the army and were arrested. They were asked to renounce their faith and offered freedom. But Saint Charles said, "I am a Christian, and I will remain one until my death." Then the king ordered their execution. On June 3, 1886, Charles, along with 12 other boys, were burned alive. According to the witnesses, they all died in peace and forgiveness. In total, there were 22 Ugandans, including Saint Charles, who were martyred for their unwavering faith in Jesus. Years later, on October 18, 1964, Pope Paul VI canonized Saint Charles as a saint and his companions, and they were called the Ugandan martyrs. Later, a basilica was built to honor their sacrifice, and it is now called the Basilica of the Ugandan Martyrs. Today, he is venerated as the patron saint of African youth, converts, and torture victims. His feast day is celebrated every 3rd of June. If you like stories like this, support us, follow, like, and subscribe.